Hi there. Welcome to the Financial Advantage podcast. We are powered by the Wells Funding Group. My name is Dennis Wells. Super excited to have Annie Lane with us here today. She is with Equity Partners Realty in Arkansas and just killing it over there. And so, Annie, thank you so much for joining us on the program today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. So, how did you get started in the amazing world of real estate?
So, kind of an interesting story. I started out with a background in insurance. I got into insurance whenever I was 18. It was what my mom did, and several of my other family members actually sold real estate. So, it was kind of an interesting situation. But I was starting to get a little bit burnout on insurance. And I went to list my house for sale, and the amazing realtor that he is, a guy named Brent Grinnell, came in and asked me, questions about the house. He was getting to know me, asked me what I did for a living. And I told him that I sold insurance, and he asked me if I had ever considered selling real estate. And I told him I had thought about the idea, but never had it come into fruition, or really did anything with it. So he was like, "Well, you need to go work for Blair Taylor." And I was like, "Okay." So a couple weeks later, I'm driving home from work and I get a call that I didn't recognize, which not being in real estate, I would always just answer.
Right.
But with being in insurance, you don't usually have people call your cell phone. So I answered kind of hesitantly. I was like, hello. And he goes, hey, Annie, this is Blair Taylor. I was told by Brent that you need to work for me. And I was like, oh, okay. And knowing Blair now, that's how he is. Love him to death. And so I ended up going in for 5 rounds of interviews and I ended up on the Taylor team with Keller Williams. I spent about 3.5 years with them. And actually, the night that he called me and told me that he was told he should hire me, I went home and purchased the real estate pre-licensing and started it.
Nice.
Yeah. So it was the summer of 2019 that he called me. And then
Okay.
started with his team September 30th, finalized and finished my licensing in November of 2019, and sold my first property January 10th of 2020.
Wow. Wow. So closing in on that 5-year anniversary of the first
Yeah,
real estate sale.
exactly. Yeah, I've been in the business just over 5 years, and I'm about to hit my 5-year anniversary for my first sale.
I love it. I love it. Um, so with the family background in insurance and real estate, did that help you just being used to the whole sales part of it?
A little bit, yeah. So my mom did was in insurance for about 30 years. Sales was never her main forte. She was mainly
Okay.
customer service. So I did get to learn some there from her. If I ever had questions about coverages or anything, I could always go to her. My dad did real estate back in the 90s. Unfortunately, he passed away before I got in, but he did own a small family business where it was a floor cleaning company. And so obviously we still had to market to people. We still had to talk to
Yep.
people, explain why they should choose us, why they should go with Landco. So definitely having had that opportunity to see him doing that growing up
Hmm.
definitely helped with my ability to talk to people and explain why they should choose me over someone else.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. So what are some keys that you would say to your success in the real estate business? Because you've done a lot in 5 years.
Thank you. Yeah. Main things are follow up. Don't be afraid to follow up. What's the worst that's going to happen? Somebody's going to hang up on you.
Hmm.
Same goes with making calls. I know it's nobody's favorite thing. I'll very much admit it's not my favorite thing, but just don't be afraid to be told no
Yep.
because for so many no's, you're finally going to get a yes, and that yes is going to make all those no's worth it. And then also take notes. If I
Mm.
don't write it down, I'm not going to remember it, even if I like tell my brain, like, okay, I can't forget this. For things that I need to do, I set alarms and I put labels on them and
Yep.
I'll let them go on as many times as I need to, no matter how much it annoys the people around me, whatever my alarm just keeps going off. But just don't be afraid of being told no. Do your follow-ups, take your notes, and if you say you're going to do something, do it.
Yeah. No, I love it. And I think that what I'm hearing a lot is the persistence
Mhm.
and realizing sometimes it's almost like a game that you just
Yeah,
have to get a certain number of no's before you're going to get a yes.
exactly. You're 100% correct.
Yeah. And so what is your secret for not taking the no's personal?
I mean, I guess at the big, okay, so in insurance, I also had to make phone calls. I had to try and sell insurance somehow. So I've been doing it for almost 10 years now in total
Hmm.
because I'll be 28 this coming year. So, and I got in whenever I was 18. So I've been doing sales as an adult for my entire adult life.
Wow.
So a part of it is just getting used to it. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a business transaction, and you have
Hmm.
to be able to separate your business from your personal, even if you're doing business with friends. It
Yeah.
is what it is. So until you can learn how to properly separate those two things, you are probably going to take some no's personally. And I can't
Hmm.
say every no that I get, it doesn't, there's maybe one out of 10 or 20 that I'm like, oh, dang, I really wish I could have gotten that one.
All right.
And I might take it a little bit personally, but it's just ultimately it's a mind game of separating your business from your personal.
Yeah. Yeah. A mentor of mine explains it kind of like, if you go to a restaurant and you have a meal and the waiter or waitress comes by and says, "Would you like dessert?" And you're like, "Oh, no, thanks." It's like they're not
Exactly.
rejecting you, they're just rejecting your offer. And,
Exactly.
and so at that point, maybe they don't want it, but maybe they will later on, so,
Yeah,
you know,
that's a
you,
great analogy. I like that.
yeah. Cool. Yeah, it's and some because I think sometimes we end up getting into our own head a little too much in
Mhm.
sales, and we're just like, oh, I mean, obviously we want to, we know that our words matter, and we want to say the right things, and we want to make people feel comfortable, and we're in it to help people, but at the same time, not everybody needs, our offer, when we make it, but they may need it down the road and remember, so
Exactly. And that's where your follow-ups come in handy. You have to
yeah.
stay top of mind.
Yeah. What are some things that you do to stay top of mind to your clients and potential clients?
So, I reach out every so often. I have calendar alerts. I use a system called Mojo Sells.
Mm.
And so basically just reaching out, whether it's to say, hey, are you ready to buy it? Or if it's just shooting them a text and be like, hey, how are you? How's the family? And like I try to actually build relationships with my clients so that they're not just my clients, but they're somebody that,
Yeah.
they know that I genuinely care about them more than just making a sale.
Yep.
So, just making sure that I'm talking to him regularly, that I'm calling him, texting him, whatever it may be, whether it's a Facebook post or, interacting on their social media too, or something like that. It's just constantly be talking. Whether
Yeah.
it's, once a week, once a month, however often you need to do it, dependent upon when they want to sell and what they're comfortable with,
Hmm.
just make sure you keep talking to them.
Yeah. Yeah. 100% agree, because like, it really is a contact sport, the more,
Hmm.
the more, and I think again, kind of getting into our head, we think, oh, well, they don't want to hear from me. It's like, well, who doesn't want to feel like that you care about them and that you're
Exactly.
there to, you know, hey, no pressure, but just, I wanted to see how things are going, or, I mean, we've got people that, they're under contract, but they've got to sell their house. We still keep up with them, and
Yep.
I know that, at some point, your house will sell and we'll be moving forward. But I want to make sure that, we're here for you if you want us to rerun numbers or, whatever you need.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that. Because I mean, at the end of the day, they're just people. People
Yeah.
like to know that people care about them. People, I
Yeah.
mean, I've got clients that, started talking to 3 years ago, and maybe they weren't ready then, maybe they're not ready now, but who's to say they won't be ready in 3 months, another 3 years, whatever it is.
Right.
And the point is to make sure that they know that you're going to be here whenever they're ready.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. So what are you seeing in the current market? And are there challenges that you see out there, and what are you doing to overcome those?
So, one thing that I like to do that really helps, regardless of the market that we're in, is I constantly set expectations.
Mm.
So, whether I'm meeting with a buyer, whether I'm meeting with a seller, if it's a seller, I make it known that we are in a market that's a little bit slower, whether that's the time of year or whatever else may have them. We're freshly coming out of an election too, and I know
Yeah.
that was worrying a lot of people about, do we buy before or after the election? And at the end of the day, my opinion is that if you're going to buy, you're going to
Right. Right.
buy. But making sure that you're keeping on top of market area statistics, what's going on in your market so that you're able to stay knowledgeable. Um, and then also, we're also in a situation where refinance booms happen every 4 to 6 years historically. I think at least since the 80s, that's about as far back as I've looked.
Right.
But, just making sure that you're staying on top of what's going on in your market. And
Hmm.
that is kind of challenging right now, especially with the National Association of Realtors lawsuit, making sure that you're following all of those rules. That's definitely been one challenge that I've seen
Hmm.
lately, because I mean, the buyer agency fee is no longer guaranteed.
Right.
So with my sellers, I'm not only trying to set up what I can do for them, but I now
Hmm.
also have to set up what a buyer's agent is going to do for them. Because if
Right.
they're like, I don't want to pay a buyer agency fee, well, you're going to severely limit the number of buyers that
Right.
you're going to have that are able to come into their home.
Yep.
Because especially if you're dealing with a lot of first time buyers looking in the 250 to 350 price range, not everybody's going to have the cash up front to pay their realtor. And at this point, you have to have a realtor just to enter a home unless you go to an open house. So that's definitely a
Right.
challenge that I've seen too. And then also a challenge that I've seen for some other agents that are, maybe newer in the business is making sure that you can set yourself apart, explain your value, stick to your value, show that you are worth that value. So,
100%. And yeah, one of the things that we've done is really revamp our buyer presentation around the the buyer's agent compensation because it's like, you know, what do you know about how buyer's agents are compensated? Because they've always been compensated. Maybe it wasn't as transparent, as at one point as it is now. But why do you need a buyer's agent? Well, you need someone who's going to be able to negotiate for you. They could probably, more than save you the amount of money that you're paying for them with their negotiating skills. There's legal representation that you're going to have. There's a certain amount of expertise that they're going to save you time. I tell people all the time, it's like, I'm not going to work on my own car. I mean, there was a time when I could do certain things, but I can't do anything on it anymore. But I'm like, even if I could, it would take me, 5 times as long and cost me probably 2 or 3 times as much
yep,
than to just take it to someone who knows what they're doing. And, and if you're relying on, you know, oh, what is online or whatever, you're really going to miss out on opportunities as well. And,
exactly.
and really telling them about how, there's multiple ways that we can get that paid. And if you're a move up buyer, that could really provide a competitive advantage if you're going against someone who's, paying cash. If you're able to do an appraisal gap, if we have fully underwriting approval, and you're able to pay some or all of your buyer's agent compensation, now all of a sudden you might be, you know, in a position to be $10,000 or $20,000 more in the seller's pocket than what a
Yep,
cash offer is, and really get the house that you want.
exactly. I mean, so the time that I spent with the Taylor team, the first team that I was with, that entire 3.5 year period, I was strictly a buyer's agent. So going through, 2020, 2021 and early 2022, whenever we were seeing just constant multiple offer scenarios,
Hmm.
you have to figure out how to really negotiate for your buyer,
Yeah.
figure out what is going to get them the house, figure out what a seller's wanting to see, figure out their sweet spots. Otherwise, you weren't going to get anything. And
Right.
so
Right.
I remember I was one of the few agents that actually really enjoyed multiple offer situations because of my competitive streak. So getting to call an agent and knowing what questions to ask and being able to properly represent my buyer
Yep.
was huge, especially in that. And so even though we're not constantly in those situations anymore, like there's still some out there. I mean, I ended up getting 4 offers on my listing that just closed on Halloween of this year.
Hmm.
So, they are still out there, but just making sure that you know how to properly present a buyer
Yep.
or
Yep.
represent a buyer, it's huge.
Yeah. 100%. And, and it's like, and again, it doesn't matter, what your interest rate is or how much you're paying your buyer's agent. If you never get your offer accepted, it's it's
It's
it's all
worthless.
wasted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we tell people 30% of our value is really that, before you get under contract.
Mhm.
And, 10% of the value is, allowing you to enjoy the process of purchasing a home instead of, being stressed out about getting a mortgage. But then 60% of that value, working with Annie and working with us is that after you close and we're helping you create generational wealth, because we want you to be the person that they call when, hey, we got a little bit of money. We were thinking about doing a home improvement. We've got one, two, or three. Well, you're the one to call and say, well, hey, if you put $30,000 here, it might make your house worth $50,000 more. If you put
Exactly.
$30,000 over here, it might not do anything to the worth of your house. Now, that
Yeah,
might be your pet project that you really, really want, and that's okay. But just know, what's going on. And then on our side, we've helped you create this debt. Now my responsibility is help you manage that debt over time, lower that cost of borrowing, and really again maximize the value of your house and eventually be debt free so that you know all you can need to focus on is your assets and the positive side of your balance sheet.
absolutely, 100%. And always remember that no matter what interest rates are paying or looking like right now, you're paying 100% interest whenever you're paying rent.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, 100%. I mean, there is a reason why, the average homeowner's net worth is like 40 times that of a renter, just because you never get ahead with rent.
exactly. You're putting equity into somebody else's pocket whenever you could be putting it into your own.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So what advice would you give to someone who might be looking to get into the business?
So, one piece of advice that I have, it could be slightly controversial to some. I am always going to recommend joining a team.
Mhm.
I'm a solo agent now. I have been for about a year and a half now, and I love it. But I can tell you right now that I wouldn't be where I am today, or it would have taken me a lot longer to get here if I hadn't joined a team first.
Hmm.
Because coming into the business, while I had a background in insurance, I knew a lot of realtors, a lot of mortgage lenders, and I was so blessed to have that. Joining a team, getting a real estate coach, making sure that you're talking through everything, making sure that you are clearly setting goals, whether
Hmm.
that's quarterly, semi-annually, annually, however frequently you want to do it.
Hmm.
That is going to be a huge part of your business, and joining a team can help you do that because
Yeah.
they're already going to know how to do those things. I was blessed enough to work for the number six team in Northwest Arkansas for 3.5 years, and I chose to go out on my own and do my own thing. And I think that was the best choice for me. But I know that coming into the business as a brand new, fresh green agent, that was the best choice I could have made for me then. And as I mentioned earlier, don't be afraid to be told no. Like
Hmm.
you're gonna be told no, and that's
Yeah.
okay, but make your calls. Don't be afraid to be told no. Don't be afraid to get hung up on. It's a part of it.
Hmm.
And make sure that whenever you are talking to those people, even if you get a maybe, make sure that you're following up with them, talking to them, staying top of mind. Um, you know, I will be the first person to admit that I'm not the best person on social media, but it's something that I'm working on. It's something that I'm looking into hiring a social media person for, and I'm learning that social media is going to be your friend in this because
Yep.
we're in a world where it's a social media day and age.
Hmm.
So just make sure that you're being consistent. And I mean, your limitations are what you set as your limitations.
Right.
You can go as far as you want to. You just have to believe that you can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I totally agree. Getting around people that are where you want to be and have been where you are and can help you chart the course. Like I said, that can save, years off your progression if you're humble enough to just say, hey, I want to get in here, I want to learn, I want to grow. And like you're saying, the sky is the limit.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to ask questions. There's no such thing as a stupid question, no matter how silly it may sound. Trust me, I've asked a lot of silly questions. Um, but you're never going to learn if you don't ask them.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I love it. You may have addressed this already. What are some ways that you add value to your clients?
so I really try to make each client have a personalized experience with me.
Mm,
Like I said, I mean, I grew up with a dad who owned a small family-owned business, so I watched how he would talk differently with certain customers, how he would, interact differently with them, depending on their comfortability levels, who they were as people. So definitely learn how to read people, and that'll help a
hmm.
lot. That's what I try to do with every single client that I have is to build a separate and unique relationship. It's never a one size fits all.
Hmm.
And I think that that's definitely helped me. with regards to the relationship portion. For, just the selling or buying side, I pull comparables on every single house that I show. And that might
Mm,
be a little bit overkill, but at the end of the day, I think that I'm doing my client the best service by making sure that if it's a house they want to see, I don't want to show them a house that's priced $200,000 above market that I know a seller's not going to come $200,000 under. And I use
right.
that number because I had one of those. I mean, don't get me wrong, you'll see houses that are priced above market average constantly, but seeing one that was that high was a little bit wild to me.
Right.
I try to always come prepared, whether it's with the comparables, whether it's with my listing or my buyer presentation. And like you, I just revamped both of those too.
Yeah.
And then, just be personable.
Hmm.
That's what I do. Is that I could walk up and talk to a brick wall. So I'm it's great. I got it from my dad. But just, I choose to go into each appointment, each showing, each consultation, whether it's buying or selling, whatever it is, or even every, time I hang out with people, whether it be friends,
Hmm.
clients, family, whatever it is, go in with an open mind. Like they're, like I said earlier, they're just people.
Right.
So definitely for me, it's been being able to build a relationship with people, making sure I come prepared, making sure that comparables are pulled, that we're where we need to be price wise. Those are all things that I've specifically found are crucial to
Hmm.
making sure that I can show my value as an agent.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, that, the education is huge. Helping people be empowered to make a good decision, and feel like, hey, yeah, and also avoiding taking them to places where someone's got to make me move price on there. You're like, well,
Yeah.
unless you want to pay like way over what it's worth. Um, yeah, for sure. Um, but yeah, I can definitely tell that you got a big heart for your clients and that they're in really good hands when they're working with you for sure.
Thank you. I try, and I have a lot of past clients that come back, so
Yeah.
I try to make sure I'm doing things right because I mean they're hiring me for a service. They're hiring me for a reason. I have
Yep.
to live up to that expectation. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And and every client that you have knows, four or five other, potential clients that they could refer in. And like saying that
exactly.
that's really the best way to grow your business for sure.
Oh yeah, no, I have a client who has done business with me for a while. So far, he's in car sales. So far, he's referred me his two sons. He's referred
Nice.
me, I think, three or four different people who work for him. And he's like, Annie, I might have to become a realtor just so I can get a referral fee for these. And I was like, I don't think that's how that works. But if you do that, if you get licensed, I will pay a referral fee.
Yeah,
So,
I love it. I love it. That's great. Well, hey, I'm sure that people would love to get a hold of you. What is the best way for people to contact you?
so I try to make it pretty easy. I answer my phone. I will always respond to a text, an email. I have Facebook, I have Instagram, I have TikTok, even though I don't post on it. I just, spend a little more time on there than I should. So if any of those platforms or, just the traditional call, email, text, all good.
Cool, cool. And what's a good number for them to call?
So my phone number is 479-650-0841. And my email is pretty easy. It is my first name, last name. So it's Annie Lane Realtor at gmail.com.
I love it. I love it. Well, I want to thank everyone for joining us here for the podcast today. We'd love it if you would, like and subscribe on whichever platform that you're on here, and please share this with uh, four or five friends or family members that are interested in real estate, and definitely give Annie a call for all of your real estate needs for sure. Annie, thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Dennis. I appreciate it.
All right, and thanks everyone for listening. Have a great day.